Hari Om. Chapter 12. Krishna, in all his at his compassionate best, is now attempting to give Arjun the roadmap and several options to reach him, because all of us have a different kind of a mindset, different conditioning and different capacities most of all. How are we all to reach that same Akshara? Akshara means that indestructible, avyakta, the unmanifest truth in the same manner. Is it possible? No, we all have, even our spiritual capacities are on very different wavelengths, and therefore Krishna gives so many options in this chapter, in chapter 12, that we cannot but be grateful for this. So as we proceed, it will be great if we keep our mind on contemplating on what is it that I can incorporate in my life and practice to know the ultimate truth, to reach that, to realize that. What is it I can do? Can I do this or that? Can I practice? Because all these practices are going to be enumerated by Bhagwan Krishna himself. So if we keep our mind on ourselves, maybe there will be some kind of a nishchay or a sankalpa that yes, maybe I can try this or that. Otherwise it remains a bookish knowledge that yes, there are 5 options. Let me see, the 5 options are for the jnani or the bhakt or the karma yogi. But who am I? Which one of them fits me? If we keep our mind on that, it becomes our journey. Having said that, in chapter 12, verse number 3, Bhagwan naturally has begun from the Nirgun Swarup, from the Swarup of Bhagwan, which is, as he mentions himself, verse number 3, Ye tvaksharam anirdeshyam. I am Akshara, imperishable, anirdeshyam, not indefinable, let's say, and avyaktam, of course, I am not manifest, paryupasate. At the same time, you need to worship me. Now, how can a mind which is so sthul, and all our minds are actually so used to grappling with and grasping only the sthul or the solid, or let's say the inert objects of the world, inert pleasures of the world. It is just a conditioning of the mind. And how is it that then we can grapple with this, the truth? So this is called the Nirgun Upasana. Nirgun meaning, yes, there is an unmanifest, and there is it's invisible and indefinable, and yet you have to keep your mind on it. It seems to be a tall order for the common man like you and me and Arjun. So what is to be done? So Bhagwan Raman Maharshi, I mean not Bhagwan, the Rishi, Raman Maharshi, sometimes they call him Bhagwan also, had given us a very simple formula. He had said, look, if you want to meditate on that Nirgun, the Achintayam, the Aksharam, the infinite, the eternal, so to say, without form or figure, all you have to do, he said, all you have to do, and he enumerated these steps which we saw last time, that at the seat of meditation, just focus on your awareness. You are aware of all the things around you, and then you are aware of even more subtle things like your own breath, and even subtler things then like your own mind. And then slowly, as you are watching your own mind as an observer, the mind seems to quieten down and maybe even stop, if it's possible. So the mind and the thoughts are riding on what? They're riding on the experiences of sansar. So all the time when we are experiencing this or that in the sansar, we are bringing in a storm of thoughts, and of course the responses and reactions to everything. So a world tour and a party and some shopping and maybe even a satsang in a very big ashram. So whatever it is in sansar, we bring in a storm of reactions, responses, and on top of that ride a lot of thoughts, and we are lost in those thoughts, but they are all on sansar. So Raman Maharshi used to say, look, if you want to meditate on that invisible, that infinite, indefinable, I'm not even going to define it, then you have to have some control over the mind, quieten it down, and it is like saying, non-cooperation with sansar. I refuse to cooperate with sansar. Oh, this might seem a little radical. No, in action we are completing our duties. No scripture tells us that we should be there should be a dereliction of duty. No, we complete it, but we don't allow the mind to keep dwelling and soaking in all the sansari things. It's the mind which is in non-cooperation with sansar, because that is the mind with which we identify, and then those thoughts naturally drag us hither and thither into the world. So he said meditation is the highest. Now, that may not be possible for so many of us who have not practiced so much in our previous lives, and maybe even less in this particular life. So meditation is once again a tall order, because it is dwelling in the abstract. Now, and a novice meditator very often is very confused. Even when he is sitting in meditation, he can see the thoughts passing, and he is able to observe the thoughts, because the meditation instructor is saying, observe your thoughts, observe your mind. And then the novice meditator is confused. Okay, I can see both. I can see the thoughts, and I'm the watcher of those thoughts. So who is the real me? Am I the thoughts, or am I the witness, the observer, the watcher of those thoughts? Which is the real me? And of course, the scriptures roar forth and say, you are of course the witness, the observer, and the real you is nothing but that consciousness. Because without that consciousness, you wouldn't even be able to observe your own thoughts or your breath or anything outside. So in meditation, know that you are the witness. So just like the wild lion, we saw the story yesterday, the wild lion who was roaring at the sheepish lion brought up with the sheep, that look, you are Brahman, you are a lion, know your power. The power of the lion is to be able to command the respect and have power over so many other animals. So now what is our power as human beings? As human beings, we have the ultimate power of realizing our true self. Instead of dwelling in the little sheepish activities, because the sheepish lion was doing just that, eating grass and bleating around all day, we are doing that, not knowing our real capacity. The sheepish lion, having been conditioned and brought up with the sheep, was unaware of his own capacity. So we need something like the Vedas and the scriptures to roar at us and say, Tat Tvam Asi, you are that, and your capacity is not being used to the optimum. Where? In this sansar. You're using all your capacity. Yes, we are doing a great deal in the world, achieving a great deal in the world, but in comparison to the capacity that we have, and only human beings have that capacity, we can realize that ultimate and merge with that ultimate. In comparison with that ultimate capacity, what we are doing is a little tinkering with the little shingles and shells on the seashore. That's all we are doing, like children playing on the seashore and making sand castles and saying, Dekho mera makan, meri gaadi, mere bacche, meri naukriyan, meri bank balance, and my status and my naam and my swabhav, main to aisa hu. It's like child's play. It's like a child not having the capacity to swim in the ocean, to know the ocean, and plays on the seashore itself with the little shingles and shells. We are doing that actually. Our entire capacity is limited to the sansar. In meditation, we can dwell in the ultimate nirgun, which is stated as Tvamakshara, Tvamaksharama Nirdeshyam, indefinable, imperishable, and of course manifest. It's always there. Imperishable because it's always present. Now, having said that, Bhagwan is not holding any illusions that yes, by stating this, Arjun will reach the ultimate truth, and he has been told how to do it, No, Arjun is like us. So Krishna goes on to make certain other recommendations. In number 4, he says, Sanniyamyendriya gramam. Okay. So he says, okay, if meditation is hard, especially if the object of meditation or the focus of meditation is indefinable, invisible, without form, so that becomes even more difficult. What can I focus on? So he said, okay, Arjun, I understand. Let me tell you that to begin with, you can do one more thing. Sanniyamyendriya gramam. Why don't you just discipline the energies, your own spiritual energy, by controlling your senses? because it is the senses which are storming out into the world, and we are dissipating our spiritual energy actually by engaging in all the attractions of the world through our senses, Ranga, Roop, Ras, Gandha, everything is attractive. So he says, Sanniyam Yendriya Gramam. Okay, Arjun, so can you do that at least? It is a beginner step, it is a baby step. So control your senses, and therefore I promise you that your spiritual energy will be conserved. Okay. Now, if we try to make a very artificial and contrived kind of a control of our senses, it has the opposite effect. It has the opposite effect of keeping our mind on those indriya, that I am controlling it, and the effort becomes counterproductive. No, it should be sahaj, it should be natural. It means what? Yes, I can engage in the world. If my family is going out to the Netherlands for a holiday with the family, be in a very sahaj. Sahaj means not craving and not resisting. Neither resisting nor craving, but enjoying the natural pleasures and natural joys of the world, because we are part of the world, and at the same time not holding any of these enjoyments or engagements with any rag. Rag is attachment. That अरे हम तो पिछली बार वहाँ गए थे, इस बार हमको कोई कहीं नहीं ले गया, and now I'm sitting all at home. They're having their own holiday out there without me. Now my mind is in despair, and it is dismayed because it's not because other people are neglecting me. It's because my rag, my attachment to what I wanted to continue as my pleasure, that's what was not there in the world anymore. And nothing will be. Everything has to pass on. So engage in the world. Whenever people say, oh, Indriya Gramam, I have to control my senses, it becomes like some kind of a contrived and very artificial and very painful kind of a resistance to all the things around. No resistance, no attraction, no craving, no resistance. It's a very sahaj, it's like flow with the tide, like the Zen people say, Zen Buddhists. Just flow with the tide, and the tide will take you across. Because if you are on the river of life, the river's main vocation, main uddeshya is to reach the ocean. Sooner or later, if you are with the tide, you will reach the ocean. Just flow with the tide. Keep your mind detached. If you're not detached, you're going to be thrown on the shores and will be lost. So that is the idea of sense control. And that's another way of controlling the sense of spiritual energy. Now the second word used by Bhagwan is in the first line, samabuddhayaha. Now samabuddhayaha means keep your mind equanimous. Yes, it follows naturally. If I'm not attached, if there's no raga or dvesha, resistance or attraction, no craving, no resistance to anything, naturally my mind will be equanimous. Samabuddhaya. So it follows naturally from the first part. If you do one, you can become samabuddhayaha. It's not like two different things you have to try. I have to try this month samabuddhayaha, another month control of senses. No, not like that. Just wherever we are, whenever we are, in whatever activity, make sure that we are not entangled emotionally and with the mind and thoughts completely entangled and soaked in sansar. That's all. Then samadukha sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpate. ये तो इन्होंने second chapter में भी कहा था. samadukha sukham dhiram, dhir rakho. Why? Because it is that equanimity that will keep the mind in a place, in a position, in a stance, let's say in an environment where it is ready for realizing the truth. It's not a direct method, but it creates that ecosystem inside the mind, because the mind is going wild with excitement, and all around you see that there is the excitement of what? So many different things. Excitement of things that I love doing. So if I love travel, I'm excited about my next travel. If I'm fond of theater, then I'm excited about the next production. But there is always some excitement originating from my likes and dislikes. If my likes and dislikes are strong, the excitement and revulsion of the world will be equally strong. It goes without saying, of course. So samabuddhaya, equanimity is a far cry for such a state of mind. Now, if I am excited about something that I want to gain, the agitation of gaining that pleasure is also an agitation. If I do not get it and there is an obstacle in gaining that pleasure, object or situation or event, again there is agitation anyway. So agitation is also the seeking of pleasure and also the frustration of not obtaining that pleasure or whatever we have desired. So desired objects in both ways are keeping our mind completely in a state of excitement for travel, for acquisitions, whatever. So what is the simple thing to tell the mind? Okay, simple thing to tell the mind is listen, pull back a little bit and listen to the secret. So you have to scold the mind a little bit and say, listen to this secret. The secret is that to the extent that you think all these vastu, vyakti, parasthiti, ghatana, events and pleasures and objects and people and relationships that you are looking at with desire and expectation, mujhe ye chahiye, waisa hona chahiye, if to the extent that you think they are real, to that extent we will never be samabuddhi. Simple formula. To the extent, that's just a way of bringing the back mind, reining it back into position to say, look, all this to the extent you think it's all real. Do you think it's all real? To that extent you will never be samabuddhaya. Real meaning what? Once again, Vedantic definition, anything that is impermanent, that will be kshaya, destructible, that will change, modify, and which is not there forever. So nothing around me is forever anyway, including my body. So holding on to the reality ki nahi, yehi satya hai, mera body and my relationships and the objects I possess, if they are real for me, I can never be samabuddhaya, I can never be equanimous, because any changes in those things is going to cause a change in me, a ripple effect. So it will boomerang on me, because I have yoked myself, my happiness, to all these things. So naturally, you want your independence, you want your spiritual independence, your emotional independence also, you want your freedom. So you have to just unyoke, we have to unyoke ourselves from these objects which we think are real. Once again, simple reminder, it doesn't mean that we do not engage in the world. We do it with all our heart and equanimity and gentleness and with a smile. But in the deepest of our, in our heart, we say, okay, this is impermanent. This too shall pass. Agama, anityaha. Ye bhi anitya hai, but as long as it lasts, it's good for me. I'm fine with it if it is there. I'm fine with it if it's gone. The moment you tell your mind this, there is a tremendous freedom, spiritual freedom. And that means living in the world, we can be muktaha. So such people are called jivan muktaha. That means even as they live, they are mukta, that is free. And therefore Bhagavan has promised in the word he uses in the second line, fourth verse, prapnuvanti mameva. You will attain me, my dear. I promise you that. At least come to that state of mind. You will attain me. And then you will have a vision of that consciousness. Vision of that consciousness means what? Meaning to say, is consciousness less or more in different places? So, meaning to say, was consciousness less in the world about 10,000 years before the Vedas were written? No. Before the Vedas were written or not makes no difference. Whether the rishis discovered it or not makes no difference. It's like saying gravity did not exist before Newton came along. How silly. The natural laws are always avyaya, eternal and indestructible, and dhruvam. So they are eternal. Dhruvam means eternal actually. Avyaya means indestructible. So that vision of consciousness has not changed over time. It does not change from place to place, which means that yes, there is a lot of spiritual consciousness in Vrindavan, and less in Ghatkopar, Bombay, or let's say the slums of Bombay. No, it cannot be possible. Then why is it, if this is the argument that consciousness exists everywhere equally all the time, avyaya, then why is it that people make a Tirtha is a pilgrimage journey to Kedarnath, or take a Hajj to Mecca, Medina, or go to Jerusalem, or to Badrinath. Why are these pilgrimages given so much importance when consciousness is the same? In my home, in my servant's home, in my my khana, that is the drinking house, and in the temple. Okay. So here the logic is that for example, when you go to the cricket stadium, in the cricket stadium, everyone is in a frenzy about the cricket mania. And therefore, when you see the match from the stadium, and especially if the match is being played between two rival countries, the energy, the cricket energy of that stadium is palpable. Palpable means it is so thick you can almost touch that energy. It's so, and it cannot but move you. So even if you're not a cricket fan and you just tagged along with your friend or your father and say, "Achha, chalo, aap cricket fan hai, main nahi hu," you cannot help but be carried away by the frenzy and excitement and by that so-called cricket energy of the stadium. Why? Because there are thousands and thousands of people holding the same thought and the same energy, and they've come with the same uddeshya. Therefore, just as the cricket energy in the cricket stadium is high, in the same way the spiritual energy, divinity exists everywhere, no doubt. Divine energy is everywhere, divine consciousness, but that spiritual energy will be different in a church, in a mosque, in a temple, and in the Tirthasthan, in Mecca, in Medina, and in Kedarnath, in Badrinath, and in Golden Temple. It will be, and we will notice it, actually. If you walk in, we will notice it, because we cannot help but be touched by that energy. So that's the logic. The logic is not to make a mechanical trip and say, okay, I have made that trip, now nothing has changed in my life. No, nothing will. The idea is to change the quality of mind, to keep it more and more uplifted from sansar. And it happens when thousands of people undertake a lot of hardships and become austere in their food habit and clothing. If you see in Mecca, Medina, they don't go in their Western clothes or in their normal clothes. They all dress in unstitched white lungi and white angavastram. If you notice, it is the same that a South Indian Pandit wears. Please notice it at Mecca, Medina. Unstitched cloth, which is like a lungi at the bottom and an angavastram at the top, exactly the same. That means, okay, it's just a way of saying we adopt a kind of austere life, austerity in engagement with sansar, and then approach the hall of the altar, the hall of divinity, let's call it. Although divinity consciousness exists everywhere. So it's a kind of training for us to go on a pilgrimage. It's for our mind to be trained. It's for our indriyas to be trained. And therefore pilgrimages have to be taken in that spirit. Okay. Some people unfortunately take it as another to-do list on their bucket list, कि हमने Niagara Falls भी देख लिया और हमने वापस आते समय I visited Medina also, तो हमारे to-do list में दोनों हो गया. No, you go with a different quality of mind to both places, right? ठीक है. So prapnuvanti mameva, Bhagavan says, prapnuvanti, I will be there, I am available to you, and I promise you, Arjun, if you cultivate that quality of mind, I will be there. That is in verse number 4. Prapnuvanti mameva sarva bhuta hite rataha. Last word in 4th verse. It's important enough for me to dwell a little bit on sarva bhuta hite rataha. Sarva, everyone. Another technique given by Bhagavan saying, okay, if you find this also very difficult, do one thing, Arjun. Just engage your mind and body, which is now all the time dwelling in my thought. All thoughts actually dwell in the I, the aham. Every thought which crosses our minds is somehow related to the I, the aham. So do one thing, Arjun. Sarva, all people, bhuta people, sarva means all, bhuta people, hite, for their welfare, rataha, become joyous in serving them. Do this thing. So what's the logic? I'm sure Arjun, if he's of a rational mind, will say, okay, I want to know the logic. So because many of us will do that mechanically also. So this is an important tip given by Bhagwan to say, and remember, we are keeping our mind constantly on which of these is something I can do. We cannot lose the thread of that thought. Even as we read Krishna's dialogue with Arjun, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha applies to us. Now how? Because Nirgun is too tough for us. It's too abstract. When I'm in meditation, I don't know what to focus on because it's anirvachyam, anirdeshyam, vachaniyam also, indefinable and in not capable of contemplation. Okay. Now, what happens when you are, what's the logic? When I am engaged in the service of others or begin to get engaged, the first thing that happens is that I have to shift my mind from all the things that I have around me are mine and they are for me. Mine and for me is something which is binding me. Krishna कहते हैं, it is binding you. जबकि we take so much pride in it. कि है ना, ये तो हमने हासिल किया है भाई. Yes, it may be our acquisitions and hard work and years have gone into it, but Bhagwan says just try loosening your grip on it, and let me tell you, you are going to find the ultimate. So it's again the leap of faith. The leap of faith is when the diving instructor or the swimming instructor says, now I have told you something about swimming, you must take that leap. This is that one. Says, I know you have spent a number of years acquiring this and that with great difficulty. Now take that leap of faith, I assure you. I'm the instructor. Krishna says, take that leap and begin to use it as if it belongs to someone else, and not someone else, it belongs to God. First keep that in mind, and then use it for bringing happiness to someone else. So it could be my body. Maybe I don't have too much wealth, so I can use up my energy and time. I use my body. Why? Because the first thing to understand is, can I shift my mind to believing that the joys and sorrows of people that I see or engage with or I'm aware of, the joys and sorrows are like mine, because I also have joys and sorrows. So why not spend my time and energy and wealth and whatever gifts, all are gifts from God, why not use those gifts to elevate somebody else's sorrow? So people sometimes ask, so what's in it for me? There is no in it for me. Your complete freedom is your bigger promise. Of course, you will not get, when we say what will I get? Of course, in terms of wealth, you can't get back the wealth you give away. So Elon Musk or what's his name? So all these, Azim Premji, when they give away millions of dollars, they're not expecting millions of dollars. But yeah, they may have some expectation. So they may say, okay, I want to make sure that India is free from malaria or polio or some incurable disease. I am devoting my life to that. Finished. Okay, so these are big dreams. I'm talking about us simple people. For us, it's enough to just shift the mind to say, all this is not mine, it belongs to God, it's a gift, and it's not for me. मेरे सिर्फ भोग करने के लिए नहीं है. When we direct this same, redirect everything to others, that is, offer it to God or to others, then the benefit is that we are free from swartha, selfishness. We are free from rag. Attachment is our entire root of our sorrows. And what better freedom can we get? What better return can we get than freedom? So we are free from rag, attachment. Okay, the car is 5 years old. Okay, doesn't matter, but somebody down the road has got a he's struggling with his family. Let me give it away instead of selling it on OLX for scrap value, 10,000 rupees. Why? What will I do with those 10,000 rupees? OLX will give me only scrap value. कि अच्छा आपकी गाड़ी तो बहुत पुरानी है, वो क्या करना है? Let me give it to someone else. Or if I sell it for scrap value, let me use that return to donate it. It's not mine. By doing that, we are helping ourselves to stay away from our own attachment. It is a great service to ourselves in the long run. Our mamata, mera, mine and mamatva, we are going to be freeing ourselves from. Again, a gift to ourselves. Our kamana, our desire for something. So if we value something very much, try giving it away to our relative, and for some time it will pinch us because our old mindset is following us. The vasanas follow us. But the reward is great because then you're free of the desire of that object. It could be a necklace or a car or an old house or God knows what. अपनी कामना से छुटकारा पाना इससे बड़ी गिफ्ट हो ही नहीं सकती, और हम खुद को ये गिफ्ट दे सकते हैं स्वयं, by ourselves, by our own action. There's no one else going to give us this great gift of freedom from raga, attachment, from mamatva, mineness. Minus is mamata and kamana and swarth. My own selfishness is binding me, and because I have become selfish, ये मेरे लिए है, ये मेरे लिए है, मेरे लिए, that makes my swabhav kathor. It gives a certain hardness to the swabhava, which I will carry through my many lives ahead. So that kathorta, that swarth, if we are able to drop, Bhagavan says, I'm giving you an easy way, na? Just do it. Just imagine that somebody else's joy and sorrow is yours. Share in it and share whatever you have. So that's why very often there are people around me who are well-to-do, and sometimes if they ask me, okay, what should I do with my wealth? What they are asking for is, where should I invest it? And I say, don't ask me for investment, advice. But yes, if you ask me, we have lived our lives through, we've enjoyed everything, and whatever is left over, yes, that is the excess we have earned, and we all have an excess baggage. So we surrender it at the airport कि या तो उसका हर जाना भरना ही पड़ेगा, carrying so much excess baggage. तो वो excess baggage जो है ना, जिसको कहते हैं कि investment करो, क्या करो, because children are well settled, everyone's professions are taken care of, and in my early days I earned too much and hoarded too much and accumulated too much. क्यों? क्योंकि later life की insecurity होती है. अच्छा चलो अब later life भी आ गया है, now I am really secure, अब ये excess का क्या करें? That excess can be shared, right? So we are not saying put yourselves in jeopardy and make ourselves insecure, but all of us have something excess to give away. But the goal has to shift. The goal has to be, let me bring comfort and joy to someone else. Not as mechanical charity, but by dropping the ahamta. Because very often, even those who give away in charity or work towards welfare of others, very often they carry with them an additional burden. Ironically, some other burden catches on to them, trying to get rid of our material burden, and the other burden is ahamta. I am a donor. I have done so much charity, you see, and I like to publicize it on Facebook and Twitter, etc. So now what I have done is, I have done a great disservice to myself by adding on to my burden in the sukshma form, in the worse form actually. Material wealth तो ऐसे भी क्षीण हो जाती है, ऐसे भी destroy हो जाती है, and it would have taken care of, or maybe someone in the family would have squandered it. Well, thank goodness, good riddance. We can get rid of material wealth. We cannot get rid of our ahamta, that ego that attaches. So we have to be very careful when people give this kind of very casual advice. हाँ तुम charity करने लगो. They always have to add a caveat, a kind of a footnote at the bottom. Be careful. Be careful when we are doing charity. क्योंकि हमको उससे भी बुरा baggage हमको हमारे जीवन में जुड़ सकता है. That has to be added. Ahamta has to drop. And once you drop it, you drop it. Now, why did I say that it's easier to drop the wealth? Because all wealth is seemit. all the material things are सीमित, they are limited. But the भाव with which I want to approach कि मुझे इस इंसान या इस community या इस group को कुछ सुख पहुंचाना है या इस environment को सुरक्षित रखना है, I want to protect that forest or that garden, वो भाव जो है ना, that's not limited. Think about it. How can the bhav be limited? The bhav of feeling a sense of giving can carry on for several lifetimes with us in our swabhava, in our vasana, through lifetimes. So it is not simit at all, the bhava. But the wealth is limited. So remember, what we are dealing with is not the objects of charity, but the bhava of charity, which is unlimited. Why are we talking of unlimited? Because the ultimate goal, of course, ultimate goal is not to give, to be charitable and gain punya in this life. No, that is just a small step. The ultimate step, the ultimate goal is to attain that unlimited tattva, to merge with that unlimited tattva consciousness which I am. And therefore, my search for that limitless begins with making my bhav limitless and lifting itself up from the jad, the limited. Okay, so I am taking a little bit of time with sarva bhuta hite rataha, last word of the fourth verse. It seems to catch the imagination because it's not as easy as it sounds. And so Arjun has to dwell on all the implications of this. And so do we. So once we have dropped our ego, hopefully, not added on to it through charity, that end of ego is end of sorrow. Another simple formula. End of ego is end of sorrow. Which means no matter how I am treated, no matter what kind of returns I get, no matter what kind of hardship I may have to face, it's okay. All the hardships and man and the treatment of others is for my body and mind and not for me. So careful. Even this, we have to be careful about one more thing. Next step. One more word of caution. The next word of caution is the natural thing which people ask, and that is, look, I have sacrificed 40 years of my life bringing up these kids, and I have sacrificed my sleep and my comfort and my desire to become a professional. I did not become a professional, and I gave that dream up, and I wanted to start a business. I gave that dream up, and I wanted to travel or be an artist. I gave that dream up, and I have sacrificed my health because there were times when I couldn't rest enough. Yes, we have sacrificed a lot indeed. Good for us, but sorry, does that count? Does it count as real seva? So unfortunately, the logic given here is, and the harsh answer is no. Why doesn't it? Because we use the word often, sacrifice kiya hai humne family ke liye. Why doesn't it count as real seva? Okay, that's because the mamatva, I have done it for what? For my own family, for my children, my attachment to them. इसलिए I have done it with the bhav of rag. Attachment का भाव नहीं गया. ममत्व मेरा है, ममता नहीं गई. So if the mamata and the rag had not gone, what kind of seva was it? So it nullified. Sorry to say, sorry for the disappointment, but nullified. All the sacrifice, all the hard work, all the efforts, nullified. Unless we have added to someone's life in the family to reach the highest truth. But what we have done through all our 40 years of effort for the welfare of our children and family and extended families also, many times in joint families, they go all out for their nieces and nephews and all that. Extended family is fine. But having gone all out for them, what we have done is we have made all the efforts for their material welfare, which is limited. So in a very limited way, with all our efforts, we have only made a very limited difference in their lives. Yes, we made a difference. And also through our mamatva, our mamata and rag, so again nullified. In formula, you have to keep crossing out what's not applicable. and material welfare of everyone. So how far will it take them? They will only squander their lives in materialism, or become lost in materialism, like Arjun is lost, like we are lost, not having the slightest clue about what is the purpose of my life, what is that ultimate truth, how can I reach that truth, ये जीवन का सत्य क्या है और मेरे मनुष्य जीवन का सत्य क्या है, उसका उद्देश्य क्या है, ये जाने बिना ही I am going to squander my life and the lives of my next few generations for whom I have accumulated great wealth, and they will have left without this knowledge. So my contribution would be again limited. Therefore, the bhav has to be unlimited, and it has to always aim towards releasing someone from the sansar and not only adding more to their material wealth, because that can go on and on, material wealth, and they are also capable of doing it themselves, you see. So there's a saying in Hindi, पूत कपूत, अगर पुत्र आपका कुपुत्र है, पूत कपूत, कुपुत्र यानी he squanders away, is a prodigal son, तो क्या धन संचय, धन का संचय यानी accumulation of wealth आप क्यों करेंगे, क्योंकि वैसे भी वो उसको स्क्वांडर कर देने वाला है अगर कुपुत्र है तो. पूत कपूत क्या धन संचय, पुत्र सुपुत, अगर आपका पुत्र सुपुत्र है and very capable of earning and standing on his feet, तो फिर क्या धन संचय, because then he is capable of earning his own security and wealth. पूत कपूत तो क्या धन संचय, पूत सुपूत तो क्या धन संचय. What are we doing with accumulating wealth? Are we adding anything to their spiritual wealth? That's the whole idea, and therefore it's nullified. What is nullified? Our sacrifice, which we have done with a lot of rag, attachment and mamata all our lives. Now, the karma yogi, now when we say that we offer without expectation and without result, we are heading towards naturally karma yoga, and we are familiar with this topic of karma yoga. So self-centered action cannot be termed as karma yoga, because the motivation is self, and if the motivation is self, then it is not karma yoga. One important thing to remember is that a karma yogi, we can take this path. Yes, Bhagavan is offering easier and easier paths to Arjun, and that's for us also. Because in karma yoga, even if we have a slightly less vairagya, less detachment, we can still plunge into it and then hope that it will become stronger. What will become stronger? Vairag, detachment from sansar. But in Gyan Yoga, it's a tough call. It's a tall order. You know why? Because in Gyan Yoga, the very basic precondition is, if you attach to that highest truth, you have to have a tivra, strong, total vairagya. Otherwise, you cannot focus. Because that aksharam, anirdeshyam, avyaktam is so abstract. I have to have much stronger vairag. And therefore, Karma Yoga is called the easier path. Remember, this is the easier path being enumerated. So then we have no excuse after that to say, okay, maybe, but there are even more, such compassion, even easier paths coming up. So don't worry. And we should never consider ourselves to say, oh, no, I don't think this path is for me. Krishna is not going to give up on us. He'll say, okay, wait, I have another path for you. He won't give up on us. We may have given up on him. So Karma Yoga Upasana is great. In short, Karma Yoga meaning Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha, last word in fourth verse. It's great for removing our own kamana, desires, our own krodha, and our own vikar, that is our ashuddhiya, and our own swartha and kathorta, that hardness of our own nature. Can I skip Karma Yoga and jump to Gyan Yoga? Another question, often asked. Again, sorry, no. Because Gyan Yoga is abstract. The moment you do Karma Yoga, you have a little bit of detachment, and that little bit of detachment helps us on the Gyan path, because Gyan path demands a great deal, not great deal, complete detachment it demands. So better to not skip the Karma Yoga path, and therefore in the third chapter Bhagavan had said, Nakar mana mana rambhat naishkarmyam purusho shnute. cannot give up the karma path at all, have to be on it. Even as a jnani, you have to be on it. So we see people like Vivekananda ji and Chinmaya ji and Raman Maharshi, there are so many centers, and Prabhupada ji, so many centers they opened. You mean to say, we open one little shop and there are so many kinds of trouble that we face. And they opened so many centers across the world. You mean to say they did not come across difficulties and obstacles and all kinds of unsavory situations with people being selfish or harsh or even insulting when they ask for dakshina or donations to build the temples and ashrams? And these ashrams were centers of learning, by the way, attached to the temples. No, they faced all that because they know their uddesha is to spread the knowledge. So karma cannot be avoided, even if you're a jnani. And that's what we have seen in all these masters. Now, the important part is, this is really important now. Please note that it is much easier for us to detach to objects, you see. Because after some time we say, chalo theek hai, I can live without it. It's easier to detach with people, vastu, vyakti, because after some time we get used to living without that whoever, that friend or the spouse or whoever we have lost. Okay. Easier to lose things and objects of the world and become detached to them. But it is much more important to be detached to our own identification of this body, this mind, this naam, the roop, audha, and etc., all that we attach, our achievements and our talents and our appearances. मैं ऐसा दिखता हूँ, वैसा दिखता हूँ, appearance. It's much harder to detach to that. And the crux of the matter is only that detachment, that I am this body and this mind, is the ultimate detachment. So even if we try to detach from the objects, yes, we can try. It's like a child being told in nursery, we used to teach them in order to teach them generosity, we used to say once a week, bring a toy which you like a lot, and that toy, you have to give away to one friend of yours in the class, and that friend will keep it for 1 week. Is it okay for you? So this is childish. It's a childish way of saying karma yog karo, give away the objects of the world. But that is only one part of the journey. Of course I can give away, because after some time I feel chalo theek hai, nahi hai hamare paas. Detachment to our body is the real crux of detachment. Because my aham, my ego rides only on that. And the body, through its sensory perceptions, rides in sansar. So the sansar and my senses and this body and the aham, it's that link which has to be broken. Not my link to my objects. Okay, so that's an important point to remember about even detachment. So, one is nirgun upasana and one is a kind of a karma yoga upasana, you can say. Okay, having said that, let's see if Bhagwan has some more suggestions for us in case we feel some difficulty in practicing these methods. Number 5. Kleshodhi katarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam. Klesh means Klesh, of course, it's a common Hindi word. It means confusion or trouble or pain, let's say. ये क्लेश, ये pain कहाँ से आते हैं? So Bhagwan is saying that those whose minds are not set on the unmanifest, he's come back again to unmanifest, and I cannot even focus on unmanifest because it has no form. But Bhagwan is saying अव्यक्त चेतसाम, जिसका मन अव्यक्त पर नहीं है, उसको तो क्लेश होगा ही. क्लेशोधि कतरस्ते शाम. What is this klesh now? Krishna has not explained what klesh is because he assumes that we all, and Arjun knows about it. Because Arjun is not an ordinary seeker, you must remember, highly educated in the scriptures. He is not an ordinary seeker. But maybe I am an ordinary seeker, so then I look for what is meant by klesh. So I find in Patanjali Yoga a good description has been given. Why do I feel this klesh in the world? And the reasons are only 5, according to Patanjali. Klesh in this world, yes, I cannot focus on avyakta, but the klesh is the root of it, the cause. What is that? Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesha, abhinivesha. What is blocking me from experiencing that ultimate? Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh. Rag, dvesh we are very familiar with. Abhinivesha. Patanjali Yoga. What is avidya? 5 kinds of klesh we have. All of us have. Avidya, of course, is not lack of knowledge. Avidya is lack of desire to know the ultimate truth. So I may not have the knowledge, okay? So I am not a jnani. But this vidya will never come to me if I have a lack of desire to have that knowledge. And what is that ultimate vidya? The ultimate vidya is awareness of my own true nature. Who am I? So avidya simply means not knowing who am I. Thinking that I am this body, I must be this mind, I must be this profession, I must be this relationship, mother, father, son, neighbor, whatever. Okay, avidya. Asmita is my second blockage to knowing that unmanifest. Avyakta, chetasam. I can't keep my mind on avyakta because asmita is interfering. What is that? The second one? That again is my identification with my body and my wealth and my appearance and education and position. Asmita comes from the word asmi. Asmi means I am. Aham asmi. I am. I am what? I am great. I am small. I am talented. I am poor. I am rich. I am is the asmi. Asmita. It's blocking me. What does it matter? Whatever I am, this is the position I am. Take your mind off it. Uplift it to the highest. Asmita. Rag of course needs no introduction. We are steeped in it. The rag and the attachment to my property, my passbook, my persons, all PPP, my passbook, my property, my persons, that means my people, my situation, objects, and all those things which give me great happiness. I hang on to it, I talk about it, I discuss it at length with my friends. Discuss what? All those things which give me happiness. I don't know what happiness it gives them to listen to me prattling away about what gives me happiness. But it goes on and on and on. And mutually they talk about it. So we attach to all these things even more, and in the hope. Why do we talk so much about our happiness and what can bring us more happiness? It is in the hope that there is a chance that I have of hanging on to happiness. I have a chance of hanging on to all this happiness and to increase it. For that chance, I keep talking about and thinking also and making an effort also towards the happiness of the world. I'm talking of the happiness of the world, okay? And of course, if it's not forthcoming, there is sorrow. So there is dvesh. Dvesh is any kind of anxiety and dislike and tension for all objects and situations. It's the exact opposite of rag. Rag and dvesh are two opposites, likes and dislikes. If they are intense, likes and dislikes are intense, then the mind is equally in an iron grip of sansar, because sansar is nothing but an ocean of rag dvesha. So stronger the likes and dislikes, stronger the mind on the grip on our mind of sansar. Abhinivesha, the fifth klesha, because Bhagwan has mentioned the word klesha in the 5th verse. Very first word he has mentioned is klesha. We are describing the 5 kinds of klesh: avidya, asmita, rag, dvesha. Abhinivesha is what? Abhinivesha is the fear that comes in our minds when we have the fear of not being able to possess or earn or stay the way we want to be. So the fear of losing our possessions or loved ones or situations, not realizing that everything is temporary. Abhinivesha, it's a kind of FOMO. You know, the youngsters use the word FOMO in their texting, shortcut texting, shorthand, FOMO, fear of missing out. So if someone on Facebook or in my social circle or in the kitty party or wherever, if they have mentioned that, oh, look at my picture, and it's a perfect picture of happiness with the children or with their best friends on the beach and with the azure blue sky at the back and the perfect soft drink in their hand, you think that you've missed out on some happiness which somehow that person has laid his or her hands on. Someone has laid his or her hands on that perfect happiness, and I have missed out. FOMO, FOMO, fear of missing out. It's a totally artificial and actually a very, very harmful, very, very insidious way of harming people. This kind of showing that I'm happy when I'm not happy. I mean, I'm happy, but in a temporary way. But no need to advertise it. So it creates klesha in the minds of people. Bhagavan is saying, kleshodhi katarastesham. If you have these kinds of klesh, do not even expect to focus on the avyakta chetasam. Keep your mind on the avyakta. Second line, avyakta hi gatir dukkham. That means the unmanifest is very hard to keep the mind focused on the avyakta. Avyakta is unmanifest. That is invisible consciousness. Very hard. Gatir dukkham. Why? For whom? For me. Why? Because I am deha vadbhira vapyate. We are the embodied people. Embodied. Unfortunately, we are people with bodies. And because we have bodies, we have senses. And the senses are sending signals to the mind. The mind is playing havoc with my likes and dislikes and raga and dvesha. And the thoughts are getting equally deluded by those actions of the mind. And therefore, lost in this whirlpool of what the body and the sansar creates, I lose myself. So Bhagwan himself is saying, oh, and when I read this, I feel a bit sorry for myself, that I have a body. Because Bhagavan says, Deha vidbhira vapyate. The embodied people will find it very hard to contemplate on me. Arey bhai, then if I don't have the body, how can I contemplate? So, idea is, yes, we have the body, unfortunately, but to detach from it, disown it, dislodge from it, dissociate from it, and then it will be possible. Who says? Krishna says to Arjun, if you want to focus on that nirgun. Nirgun is the hardest, unmanifest to focus on. Then embodied people will find it kleshobhi. Yes, naturally. Here an example, a beautiful example is given by Shankaracharya, where he says that look, if your mind is agitated by this and that in the world, and at any given point in time the mind is agitated. By agitated we don't mean anxious or worried only. Yes, it can be anxious or worried or restless, but it is also restless because there is some future happiness that we are seeking, and that desire of the future happiness itself is causing the restlessness. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya used to say that look, when a mind is in that state of restlessness, of confusion or anger or krodh or calm, you know that in such a mind you cannot even thread a needle. You cannot even thread a needle. एक सुई में धागा तक नहीं डाल सकते हैं हम. क्यों? क्योंकि उसके लिए भी एकाग्रता चाहिए, समबुद्धि चाहिए, a kind of equanimity चाहिए, kind of steadiness चाहिए. वो अगर हम एक सुई में धागा नहीं डाल सकते हैं तो आप अव्यक्त के फोकस की क्या बात कर रहे हो? Avyakt is a far cry. Therefore, the kind of mind we carry with us is a wrong vehicle. It's a very poor vehicle to go up that high mountain. It's kind of a very rickety, a very old-fashioned little rattling car, very poor vehicle. That vehicle of our mind is very poor. For what? For gaining that nirgun. So a mind which is dwelling in the gross will find it hard to contemplate on the subtle. That's all he means, Bhagwan, when he says kleshobhi. And also when he says dehavad bhera vapyate, because you feel you are only the embodied person. Therefore, contemplation on the subtle is harder. So a kind of discipline is needed. Now, all the methods that are given by Bhagavad Gita are actually disciplines. There are no shortcuts. They are all kinds of disciplines. So a mind which is unsteady, it cannot even put a thread in the needle. So what about Bhagwan? Bhagwan is a far cry. Now, why is it that we all are seeking happiness out there in the world? At least that question should be answered. If the logic is so clear, why is it that we find so much happiness and in being extroverted and all the activities and experiences of shopping and food and more food and travel and friends and all the rest of it? Why? And when I lose interest in all these things, people say, ये तो इनका बुढ़ापा आ गया. It's a sign of aging. No, that's not true. There is a natural dropping away of pleasures which are temporary pleasures. If we are spiritually mature. If we are not spiritually mature, yes, we will still crave the pleasures of the world. But why are we seeking this happiness? Vedanta has given the logic over and over again, and that is, we are seeking our own real nature, which is Anand. Of course, it's in the wrong place. It's in the temporary outside world. In the inside permanent world, there is permanent happiness. Just like water, if you evaporate it or freeze it, it will become ice or vapor. But you leave it there for some time and the vapor condenses back to water, the ice melts back to water. Water will always seek its own natural state. We are all seeking our own natural state of Param Anand. Param means supreme and permanent Anand. And yes, it's in the wrong place, and therefore we say, nahi, happiness to mil rahi hai. Theek hai, but after some time what happens? So the sheen and the power of that happiness is gone. The power that we have used in this world for gaining all the material things and doing all these great sacrifices, Bhagwan is saying, nothing much. I'm not asking you much. You have that power. I have faith in you. Like a good teacher says to the student, I know you can solve that problem, and I'll be there beside you. In the same way, Bhagwan says, I know you have that power. Just turn that power, shift that power that you have towards attaining me. Because you have already shown your power of achieving so many things in the world. You have been ekagra and steadfast and disciplined in attaining so much in the world. That power you can turn towards me. Therefore, then you will have no klesha, no dukha, and that is the hidden secret of the scriptures. In verse number 6 and 7, he offers some more solutions which may seem simpler to our minds, and we'll see them next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.